A lot of people know about the controversy surrounding Mr. Beast's channel when it comes to Chris and the transing that he went through, right? A lot of people know about that. But do you know about Chandler Hallow? Because Chandler is stating that he is a Christian. And there's a lot of people out there that seem to be transitioning from a more secular viewpoint to a Christian viewpoint. And I just want to do a shout out to Bryce Crawford for having him on his podcast, because Chandler from Mr. Beast comes on the Bryce Crawford podcast. And when I tell you that it's so much different than I thought it would be, because this seems like one of the most down to earth, like real testimonies that I've heard in quite some time. So let's go ahead and jump into it and see what it's all about. Before we jump in it, don't forget to like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Let's go ahead and see what Chandler has to say about how he came to Christ.
What was the turning point? Like, what happened to intervene into your story?
Dude, it's really my family praying for me for sure. Like, if I didn't have people praying for me, I don't know, like, what I would have done. Because I had a radical encounter in my kitchen as I'm, like, just moping around. Like, I'm depressed. Like, I feel alone. I'm just by myself in my house. And I hear God, like, speak to me in my head. And he goes, "What are you doing?" Like, clear as day. And I, like, froze, like, because I'm just walking around in a circle, like, around the island, in my, like, the island kitchen or whatever.
Yeah.
He goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "What am I doing?" Like, I just freeze like that. And then I look at my hands, like I started looking at my body, like, what am I doing? Like, you know, like, God just, like, peeled the scales off my eyes right then, like, boom.
Whoa.
And I was, like, just, like, shocked at myself, like, I gotta stop this now, you know? God just opened my eyes to what I was doing. And I just threw everything away right then and there. Like, I had 2, like, giant trash bags full of, like, paraphernalia.
Whoa.
That I just threw out.
Whoa.
Yeah. That was, like, the first, like, step, I guess, towards reconciling my relationship with God.
Dang.
Yeah.
And in that moment, whoa, that's crazy, because I feel like I think, dang, because so many people, I think, have that opportunity. I think there's a lot of people that have moments with God where they get real with themselves, whether it's an encounter, like God speaks to them, or maybe they're so hopeless they're sitting there and they're just going, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But they don't take the action step to do something about it. And so, like, whether it's like, oh, maybe they're, like, drowning in drugs, they're like, what am I doing with my life? But then they go, oh, I'll throw the drugs away tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wake up and they see him on the counter and they're like, oh, maybe, like, one more time. But for you were just like, I'm throwing this away right now.
I mean, I've had that thought of, like, you know, I'm just going to finish this and then not buy more.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, that's, like, it never works, right? I don't know why. I just would never do it. But then, like, when, I don't know, God's just actually, like, stopped me in my tracks, like, walking, and said, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. Whoa.
And I was like, what am I doing? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I feel like that's even me with, like, when I'm struggling to read my Bible. I remember when I was in high school starting my faith journey, I would, like, wake up in the morning and I'd say, oh, I'd read my Bible later. Then I'd go to school, I'd get done with school, and then I'd be like, oh, well, I'll do it after I do homework.
Yeah.
And homework would get done. Well, I'm going to eat dinner, I'll do it. And then I was like, I'll do it before I go to sleep. And then just tomorrow never came for me. And then I remember, and then I've watched some, like, motivational hype video where it's like, tomorrow never comes, do it today. And that kind of, like, changed it for me. Would you say that after that moment, so God stopped you in your tracks, you throw it in the trash, was it like you quit everything cold turkey in that moment?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Because I know myself, like, if I try to wean off of something, it's not going to happen. I got to just struggle. I got to just go through the struggle to get free of that. Like, because I was also, like, vaping, like, doing, like, nicotine and stuff. So I was vaping, smoking weed, drinking, doing other drugs as well.
Whoa.
And the nicotine was tough, bro. Like, you can't wean off that stuff. You just got to get rid of it, like, and then struggle for how long it takes for you to not want it anymore, you know?
Right.
In my opinion, like, but that's how I did it. I just quit, like, everything.
Yeah.
You know? And I knew I wouldn't get through it unless I just, like, relied on God.
Yeah.
You know, because there's people around me that still do the things that I was doing.
Right.
I was like, I just gotta, like, really rely on God to get me through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people are kind of in that circumstance, like, even happens with me sometimes. Like if I say something and you say, oh, like trust in God, rely on God. For you personally, when you were quitting those temptations, what did relying on God look like for you? Like what did trusting in God look like for you when you threw all that stuff away, but the days to come, maybe one morning you wake up and the cravings for nicotine feel really strong. What did trusting in God look like for you to overcome that?
Reminding myself, like speaking life over myself, like to myself, like in a quiet voice. I would do that. I'd be like, God, like help me right now. Like I would go to him, like, you know, if I'm feeling tempted. I know this now, like what I was doing, but I didn't know I was doing that. I was just like praying to God, like, God, I just need you to get rid of this craving, like help me, like. And then I would go back to talking to whoever I was talking to, like,
Yeah.
like, you know, I would just do stuff like that, like, and that really helped, you know. Yeah,
I love that because I feel like people don't think prayer is like something that you can do in the moment. I feel like people are like, oh man, I just got to wait till I'm alone. But you're like, I would be talking to someone and then just be like, God, please help me right now. This is hard.
yeah.
And then going back to doing what you're doing. I think that's so powerful because people look at prayer as this like just you got to use fancy words, you got to approach God in Shakespearean language, and then you know, maybe if you say enough fancy words, God will hear you quicker. But you're like, no, dude, it's like,
I feel like this is one of the most probably relatable things I think they talk about in this entire podcast, because one of the main things that I use when it comes to like dealing with temptation or just dealing with sin that I am struggling with is probably just that casual, conversational, like prayer to God, even during the temptation. And sometimes even whenever I give in to the temptation, I'll even continue to pray like, God, I don't know why I'm not strong enough. Help me, help me, help me, help me. And I just think it's very important to remember that we don't have to be super proper when it comes to prayer, that we can pray to God just like I'm talking right now. We can pray to him like we have a conversation with anybody, because I think some of that is probably one of the most powerful tools when it comes to overcoming sin. And I think that we're just so slept on. As Christians, we have just slept on the power of prayer. I mean, if you listen to how he started out his testimony, one of the main things he talked about was how much of his family was praying for him, and that's how he believes he came to know who Christ is in a deeper and more intimate way, and how he changed his life and turned his life around was because he had family praying for him. But what do I know? Don't take my word for it. Try prayer out for yourself. Let's continue.
he's like my best friend and pal going through it. So, okay, so another question for you. What was the reconciliation moment like for you and your family? I bet now in that moment when you're quitting that stuff, was it hard to still approach them because you had felt shame for the stuff that you had just quit? Or what did that look like, getting to go see your parents for the first time in a long time? Did you tell them what you had been doing and what your change had happened? Like, what did that look like?
Well, I talked to my dad because he's like, he went through a lot of that stuff that I went through, like times 10 probably, you know. And he was just like, why'd you do that stuff? I was like, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, he showed me grace, and like, he was just thankful that I wasn't doing that stuff anymore. He wasn't like, he was not making me feel guilty or shameful at all.
Yeah.
Because, you know, thankfully, you know. But the day that I had those trash bags, right, I text my brother, Zach. I'm like, I sent him a picture. I'm like, bro, I'm throwing all this away. Like, I'm done. Like, just like, I was happy to share. Like, I was like thankful. Like,
yeah.
I was like, bro, look, like, you know.
Yeah.
And then he calls me. He was like, bro, I've been praying for you for months, like crying out to God, like that he would just do something. And I just like broke down. Like, I didn't know he was praying for me, you know?
Yeah.
And then my sister is praying for me. Like, they're praying for me all the time, crying like to God that he would do something in me.
Whoa.
And I like, that just like, I was just so thankful, and like started crying. Like, I couldn't believe like they were praying for me and they didn't tell me, like, you know?
Yeah.
It was just, I was just like, wow. Like, I'm forever grateful, you know?
Do you think that's why you have like Do you think that's why you have a big heart for intercession and prayer? Because when we were talking, like, before we started, you were like, yeah, I have a really big heart for this. Do you think it's because you saw the power of prayer in your own life from loved ones?
Yeah, definitely. I think prayer is very powerful, and I want to just learn more about it. And
So I was very curious for a long time about this Chandler testimony because I've watched several of the Mr. Beast videos, and there's so much controversy around the supposed trans stuff that he had going on. And then you got Chandler saying he's a Christian. Is it all believable as far as Chandler being a Christian? You know, for a long time I didn't know, but it seems like after watching this testimony, it's very clear that Chandler became more and more just interested in God and developing as a Christian because he had a loving Christian family that never gave up on him and was proceeding to do intercession through Jesus Christ and our Lord and just continually praying and crying out to God to save their son or brother or cousin. Who knows how many of his family members were setting aside time on a at least somewhat regular basis to pray for him. And I will tell you this, I know from experience myself that when you're asking God to do things within, his will, he's going to grant it to you. I know this based off experience, but also know it because the Bible says so. But from my own personal experience, right, whenever I go into work every day, if I pray for God to give me knowledge that to have the conversations with the people that I'm around at work about him, somehow that same day it always winds up that I begin to talking to somebody about nothing related to Christianity, but because I prayed for an opening in conversation to then witness to people, somehow my conversations get steered that way and I don't even have to do it. The people that I'm talking to will begin to bring up topics that just straight up lead to the gospel and the sharing of the gospel. And it's so crazy because I know that it's from the prayer that I prayed before I walked in that day. I think it's just so awesome to see how the testimony of prayer just works so powerfully in Chandler's life. And I am grateful that it did. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed the video, to like and subscribe. But also we have a video coming out here soon. It's going to be of us downtown once again asking people what they're thankful for because Thanksgiving's coming up next week. So stay in tune for that. Hope you have a blessed day. Don't forget to put on the full armor of God and have a blessed day.